My name is Jolene Bunting. In 2014, I was given the privilege of serving the people of Court DEA, which is the Greater Shankill area, on Belfast City Council.
As needless today, I'm the first DEA councillor in Belfast City.
Since being elected, I have worked hard for my constituents. I've helped them with housing and benefits advice, sorted out bin collections, I've helped local community groups and everything else that comes with serving a deprived working class area in Belfast. Many families across my constituency have been ripped apart at the hands of terrorists. In 2017, dissident Republican terrorists and their supporters planned to march through Belfast city centre. My community were outraged and I was asked to help organise an anti-terrorism rally to oppose the march. The Islamic terrorist attacks at London Bridge, Westminster and Manchester Arena happening just months before, I felt it was important to have someone from mainland UK voicing their concerns about terrorism. My team and I set about inviting various groups and individuals involved in counter-jihad and the patriot movement in the mainland. We were ecstatic when we were first responding to say they would attend. So the Northern Ireland Against Terrorism rally was held on the 6th of August 2017. It was an absolute success. Not only did we have a good turnout and great speakers, but the terror fest, which the rally was set up to counter, have been barred from marching through Belfast city centre. The rally literally opened a can of worms. People from all around the country had heard about the rally and were getting in touch with me to voice their concerns about Islam and immigration. Then, in November 2017, out of the blue, I received a phone call telling me that Jolene Bunting had been arrested by the PSNI at Bromley Police Station for speeches that she had made at the rally which I had organised. Jolene's arrest forged a relationship between myself and Britain First. In August this year, I was suspended from Belfast City Council for supposedly bringing the council into disrepute. This said by the Chief Executive of a council which has long and varied history of having convicted terrorists, bank robbers and general thieves in its chamber.
Jolene Bunting has been suspended for 4 months from her duties as a Belfast City Councillor. It follows 14 complaints, including her association with the far-right organisation Britain First. An interim hearing found there is an initial case that her behaviour had brought her position as a councillor and that of the council into disrepute.
The purpose of this video is to give my supporters an update on the case and to lay out exactly the complaints against me. First off, I'm glad to inform you that after jumping through a couple of administrative hoops, the appeal against my suspension was lodged and I have a date to attend the High Court in Belfast at the start of November. So on the 9th of November, I am going to defend my right to freedom of expression. I can't help but feel that the date of the High Court hearing is symbolic, considering it's just 2 days before the nation remembered the very reason we have this freedom. Our forefathers fought and died in 2 world wars that we should live in a free and democratic society, and the actions of the local government commissioner have simply stripped us of both those privileges. I will not let our heroes' sacrifice be in vain. As an elected representative, I have a right to voice my constituents' concerns. I will not be silenced. As Enoch Powell said in his Rivers of Blood speech, all I know is to see and not to speak would be the greatest betrayal. I would like to explain what the complaints currently being investigated by the Commissioner are about. Complaint 1. This complaint relates to a video published on social media on the 13th of December 2017. The video depicts myself and Miss Jada Franzen outside the Belfast Islamic Centre, or Belfast Mosque. It is worth noting that one of the leaders in the Belfast Islamic Centre, Dr. Al-Wazn, who's infamous for saying Mosul is the most peaceful city in the world, in January 2015, while it was under ISIS control, Al-Wazn also reported Pastor of Whitewell Tabernacle Church, Pastor James McConnell, to the PSNI over a sermon he gave in 2014. Pastor McConnell, a 77-year-old evangelical preacher who at the time was fighting cancer.
Islam is heathen. Islam is satanic. Islam is a doctrine spawned in hell.
Pastor McConnell has faithfully served the Lord for most of his life. Thankfully, in January 2016, a judge ruled that Pastor McConnell was not guilty of making grossly offensive remarks about Islam. The judge said that the courts needed to be careful not to criticise speech, which, however contemptible, was no more than offensive. It is not the task of the criminal law to censor offensive utterances. The second complaint. This relates to a visit by Miss Franzen on the 9th of January 2018 to Belfast City Hall, Council's chambers, facilitated by myself. Jada had been in Belfast for a court appearance. After the court, we went to Belfast City Hall, which we had done many times before. However, during this visit, Jada streamed a live video about her court case, and while to a certain degree, I can understand the problem here, as Jada was wearing the councillor's robes, but the fake outcry and media frenzy around it was really startling. Where were the calls for councillors to stand down when Alliance Party member Mickey Murray posted a photograph of himself on Facebook inside the Lord Mayor's chamber, wearing the chain of office? Mr. Murray had a caption on the photograph: "My first act as first day of Belfast is banning the DUP and making rainbows compulsory." He was suspended over that. I have taken many different people around Belfast City Hall for many different reasons, to take tours of the building, to hold meetings, etc.
I've had many guests in City Hall and I've never had an issue.
The third complaint relates to allegations that I refer to problematic people in the context of Islam during a full council meeting on the 3rd of January 2018. Many believes that this is prejudice to the members of a specific religious or racial group. Now, this exchange happened when I opposed the Sinn Féin proposal to ban councillors from using offensive expressions in reference to any person. I believe that this proposal infringes on my human rights and freedom of expression. I pointed that out. I pointed out how, as a council, we need to be able to address problematic members of society. I did not even mention Islam. However, I did have Sinn Féin councillor Jim Flash McVeigh, who coincidentally is an IRA gomer, tell me that I was speaking about Islam. He called me nasty. Now that's rich coming from a thug who was caught conspiring to murder soldiers. So I don't even need to speak about Islam to be subject of complaint. Someone just needs to assume that I'm referring to the barbaric so-called religion for me to be subject to complaint. The fourth complaint relates to myself co-organising and taking part in a rally in Belfast on the 6th of August 2017, the Northern Ireland Against Terrorism rally. Now, the Northern Ireland Against Terrorism rally was an absolute success. I also organised several rallies since being elected in 2014. Most recently in the summer, when I organised 3 rallies outside Belfast City Hall. These rallies were in support of persecuted patriots like Tommy Robinson, Jada Franzen and Melanie Shaw, and many others who found themselves behind bars for doing nothing other than speaking the truth. All the rallies were peaceful, on my part anyway. The only violence came from the far-left counter-protest, attended by unions, organised by an MLA and a councillor, and attended by well-known dissident Republican terrorists. And the most recent ones, there has been, and I believe this is for the first time ever in Belfast, the Union flag and the Irish tricolour flying side by side. Any other councillor would be commended for that achievement. Not me. I'm subject to complaint. Fifth complaint relates to a newsletter article dated the 8th of August 2017, where I reaffirmed my support for the claims made at the rally. Yeah, so I'm against terrorism. That doesn't make me a bad person. Sixth complaint relates to a video update on my Facebook page when I refer to Jada Franzen as telling the truth about the Islamification of the United Kingdom. This complaint is utterly ridiculous. George Orwell said in his book called 1984, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. The second complaint relates to when I appeared on BBC radio programme Talkback. It's alleged that I confirmed Ms Franzen's views and agreed with comments about Muslim people made by a caller to the programme. I agreed with comments made by a caller to the programme. Well, actually, I explained that it is in the Islamic scriptures to behead unbelievers, to throw gay people off buildings, and all the rest of the disgusting commands that comes with this so-called scriptures. Again, I'm subject to complaint for telling the truth. They've complained the fact that I coordinated, crowdfunded and hosted an event on the 13th of January when a film called Can't We Talk About This, which seeks to make the case that there's a threat posed by Islam to society, was publicly shown. A new documentary produced by key figures in the global counter-jihad movement such as Pamela Gallen, Dirk Wilders, Robert Spencer and Milo Yiannopoulos was released on September the 11th, 2017. I watched the film and I felt that the world should watch this factual documentary and take note. So I asked my team to help me hire a cinema or a hall to hold a screening of the film somewhere in Belfast. We tried to book at least 15 different venues. As soon as they heard the film was about Islam, they refused to take our booking. After months of searching for a venue, it was decided if we can't find a venue to screen the film, then we'll show it outside Belfast City Council. So we've done exactly that. We showed the film on a 20-foot portable screen.
But if they just go that little bit too far?
The next complaint relates to an allegation that my association with and public support for an openly Islamophobic group, namely Britain First, has had an adverse effect on the council's reputation and on public trust in the position of a councillor. Firstly, I want to point out that Islamophobia is a fear of Islam. So yes, I am Islamophobic. All across the UK, young British girls are being raped by Muslim grooming gangs. Terrorist attacks are now a common occurrence, and everything else which comes along with Islam. I believe it is normal to fear such a barbaric, totalitarian ideology. The 10th complaint relates to a meeting of the City Council held on the 9th of April 2018. I made statements in relation to leaflets widely condemned as being racist, which were distributed in East Belfast. So yes, I disagreed with fellow councillors who alleged that these leaflets were racist. In no way were they racist. They mentioned no form of race, because Islam is not a race.
I don't care what colour your skin is. I don't care where you come from. If your faith teaches you that you should murder people, if they don't conform to your beliefs and your ideology, then your faith needs to be opposed.
The concerning thing about the discussion in the chamber is that I don't believe some of the councillors had even read the leaflets, and I'm certain that they didn't look for sources of where the information had come from. If they commented anyway, they called it racist anyway. One councillor said that the picture was shown in the leaflet was obviously somewhere in the Middle East. The leaflets were totally fabricated. The picture was in fact a mosque in Bradford, England. This just emphasises my point, and the point of the leaflets. We need to resist Islamification. These leaflets also listed atrocities in the United Kingdom. I simply pointed out the ways elected leaders in a city should not demonise our citizens who have concerns. The 11th complaint. followed a social media post by myself on the 3rd of May 2018. The complaints allege its content, a cartoon meme, was sectarian and racist in nature. I have no idea why this meme has been described as sectarian or racist. However, I do regret the meme and I have apologised. I simply didn't pay attention to the writing which was on the hat. The writing on the hat made mock reference to the famine, something which should not be a subject to be mocked. I should have known better. I should have paid more attention to what I was sharing on social media. I, however, am yet to have an explanation to how or why this meme is being described as racist or sectarian. The purpose of the meme was simply to say that the Republic of Ireland should leave the EU too. It was left-wing political opponents who made these complaints against me. Councillor Donald Lyons from the SDLP, Councillor Georgina Millen of the Green Party, Councillor Emmett McDonough-Brown of the Alliance Party, Councillor Mary McConville of Sinn Féin. She served 2.5 years in prison on IRA charges. Councillor Sean Welch of Sinn Féin, who was imprisoned in the 1980s. He was convicted of robbing a bank and possessing explosives. Conor Maskey, a member of Sinn Féin, a relative of Alex Maskey, who despite not being allowed to enter mainland UK, held office in Belfast City Council. The City Lord Mayor, Miss Deirdre Haggerty, who is accused of withholding information from the PSNI. The Chief Executive of Belfast City Council, Miss Suzanne Wiley, who I suspect is a common purpose graduate. Miss Wiley's complaint was one of the most shocking of all the complaints because all Chief Executives should be impartial. This is obviously not now the case with Miss Wiley.
My case is the first of its kind.
Patrick McShane, Independent Republican Councillor for Causeway Close in the Glens. He was convicted of attacking police, threatening a member of the public during a council meeting. He still sits in his post as a councillor. Councillor Brian McDuffin. He continues to sit in Antrim Newton Abbey Borough Council despite his conviction for sexually assaulting a teenage girl in her own home. Independent Republican Councillor Gary Donnelly. He was convicted for putting graffiti on Derry's walls. He's been arrested in connection to a number of murder inquiries. He still holds his post as Councillor in Londonderry. Independent member of Nearly Morning Down, Councillor Patrick Clark. He has been disqualified from office after being convicted of fraud and sexual assault. He had been convicted of these offences, including sexual assault, criminal damage and defrauding 2 community groups. Yet remained in his post throughout the Commissioner's investigation, which went on for over a year after his convictions. These are just some examples of how extraordinary my case is. I have been suspended while the investigation is still ongoing. None of these councillors, despite being proven in the court of law to have broken the law, were suspended during their investigation. Yet I have not so much been questioned by the PSNI. I have been completely overwhelmed with the amount of support I've received since my suspension, not only in my own constituency, but across Northern Ireland and further afield. I have received support from people in America, Canada, Israel, Australia, Sweden, Holland. Thank you to every one of you. I cannot fight the establishment alone. I would also like to say a special thanks to independent media outlets such as Unity News Network, Red Ice TV, Alt News Media, The War Cat, UK Freedom News, Jihad Watch, and the For Britain Party leader Anne-Marie Waters for all their support. It's important that people are aware the freedom of speech is being suppressed in Belfast.